So in this video, I'm going to take you through a technique to estimate what time the moon will rise and set based on the current phase. And I'm going to use the full moon as my example. I like to do this with a diagram, and so I've started by just putting the Earth on my diagram. The next thing I'm going to add is the moon. I'm going to place it so that the lit side of the moon is fully pointed towards Earth, since it's the full moon. If I wanted to do this for a different phase, I'd have to position the moon differently so that the lit portion of the moon that was visible towards the surface of the Earth matched the phase. I also went ahead and I added a person who would be standing up and looking and seeing that full moon, just to help me keep track of where some things are. The next thing I'm going to add is the sun. So, since I know that the sun is always pointed towards the fully lit side of the moon, and when there's a full moon, the angle between the sun and the moon has to be 180 degrees, I can draw my sun off to the left, so that the Earth is in between the sun and the moon. The next thing I'm going to do is think about the Earth's rotation. So in an earlier section of Astronomy by Sight, we figured out that if you look straight down at the North Pole of the Earth, it's going to look like it's rotating counterclockwise. So that red arrow is to help me keep track of that counterclockwise direction. The next piece, I'm going to estimate what time it is at a few different points on the surface of the Earth. So at the point where the sun is directly in line with has to be noon, and then the point opposite that, which happens to be where someone's able to look directly at the full moon, it's midnight. And then I know that the top of my diagram has to be 6 a.m. because if the Earth rotates just a little bit counterclockwise, the sun is going to come further into view for someone standing on that point. So that means that at the top of the diagram, it must just be sunrise, which tells me it's 6 a.m. And then that means the bottom of the diagram must be 6 p.m. or 1800 hours. The next step is going to be to estimate which part of the surface of the Earth you can see the moon from. And so I drew in some lines to show that. So anyone in between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. standing on the surface of the Earth would be able to see the moon. Now the last step is to figure out which of those is when the moon is rising and which of those is when the moon is setting. So if I think about that rotation, for somebody at 6 p.m. or at 1800, the moon is just starting to come into view, because if the Earth rotates just a little bit further counterclockwise, someone standing at that spot is going to get a better view of the moon. Similarly, for someone standing at 6 a.m., if the Earth were to rotate just a little bit further counterclockwise, they would lose their view of the moon. And so that means that 6 p.m. or 1800 is when the full moon rises, and around 6 a.m. is when the full moon sets.